So first I need to ask you if you'd be happy for this to be on the website.
That's all right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
And would you be happy to use these responses for data?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you students, teachers or lecturers, and from which country?
Students, and I'm from Denmark. And student from Romania.
And student from Denmark.
So thinking about the overall DLab project, can you describe what you've gained?
I've gained a lot of insight into international projects because I've always thought that I'd like to be part of one, and it's been a great experience. I'm just having second doubts about whether I am focused enough for it, because it looks like it's a lot of responsibility, and so far I'm a little scared, so I don't think I'm gonna jump right into it. I think I'm gonna wait to get a little bit of teaching experience first, so I can feel comfortable with leading a big group or having all that responsibility on my shoulders. But it's definitely something that I'd like to be part of again in a couple of years.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to be part of a project like this where we collaborate with so many different countries, and you realize how different we work and how different we are when it comes to cultures as well. I think that's interesting part of it as well. And you're learning a lot about the other countries and the way the school works, and I think that is really important to bring along as well.
Yeah, I would say the same things that Nadja and Joanna said, but also kind of continuing on what Nadja said, that I've developed as a teacher myself, because I got to work with so many teachers from different countries. And yes, it has been a big task, and especially I can see from those who have been leaders that it's an extremely big task for them, but it's actually inspired me to kind of wanted to be that person whenever I finish my education, hopefully soon. So yeah, I think I've developed as a teacher.
How do you think your involvement has impacted or will impact on your own practice?
Well, then I can continue a bit, because it's what I already was talking about. I think it has developed my view, view of how I teach, and view of the importance of including the world around us in the teaching.
Yeah, I would really like to work with international cooperation later. But to me, this was a really big problem, and we are a lot of people in this, so it's really difficult sometimes to connect everything, and being sure that we do the same things. But I think you can use a lot of this, and I would definitely use it in my teaching as well, because I think it's important that we work together, learn from each other, as we do.
Yeah.
Have there been any particular challenges?
I think personally my biggest challenge was the fact that we had so many different platforms where we were communicating, and a lot of information was lost, and it made me feel very insecure, because I usually know what I'm doing, like I have a good hold of the situation, but everything was so scattered all over that at times I was questioning myself and wondering whether, do I understand what's going on, or why is it that my peers know where we have to be but I don't, and but I think this can easily be fixed if in the future we agree, one platform, that's where all the information goes on, that's where you have to be at.
And then the whole project expands for so long, so you have to be responsible all the time, and that can be really difficult because you have a lot of other things going on as well. So that's also a big challenge, I think, being ready, being prepared all the time, because if it was just 1 month where you focused 100% on this project, you would be ready all the time. But here, that because it's such a huge project, it's difficult in that way, I think.
Yeah, and I also think now I can speak of the perspective from last year, where at least in my subgroup we worked with a whole course, so we had perhaps 5 or 7 deadlines that we needed to reach at the same time in 3 different countries. And I think that was a huge challenge because we all of a sudden discovered all the local, structures that are hindering this work. And I think from my understanding that this has already been included in this year's project to see, okay, to have a big course is probably not possible. So I also think that these challenges, while there has been a lot of them, and I agree with the ones that Joanna and Nadja pointed out, that they are also, so far, have been incorporated into developing and improving.
So have there been any benefits or challenges of the teachers, lecturers and students working alongside each other?
I think I've loved this part because it was made very clear to us that everyone is starting from the same point. So everyone's equal. You don't have to perceive any teacher or leader as above or any peers as below you. So it was really comforting to know from the get-go that, okay, we're a big team, we're supposed to work together. It took a lot of the inhibitions aside because then I felt more secure to voice my opinions, to speak up if I didn't like where an idea was going or if I felt like it could be done in a different way. So as far as I'm concerned, it really worked for me.
Yeah, I would also just say that this equal hierarchy in the work has also given me a lot of opportunities, and I think that's what been the best part for me. Apart from working with all different kinds of people, it's also that I've had the opportunity to actually take some leadership here that you don't often get as a student. So that's been very nice.
Have there been any benefits or challenges in the planning stages or in the classroom?
When having the project days, we had some challenges with the cooperation part because we understood things differently in each country. For example, we had these Skype sessions, and sometimes they didn't work, and sometimes we prepared something that the other country didn't prepare. So here we had some miscommunication, and that is really difficult when having a project where we're actually supposed to do the same during the project days, but you don't really do that. So that is a challenge. But it's also interesting because we understand things differently.
And have there been any benefits or challenges while making the MOOC or within the international days?
Well, you're quite early in the MOOC making process, but I think last year the biggest challenge for the MOOC was to keep the interest going. Because what happened there was the first week there were a lot of interest and there were a lot of the project participants who were active in the MOOC to create this life in there, and that slowly slowed down during the 4 weeks. So I think that was a huge challenge last year to keep the interest for the MOOC up and running. But yeah, ultimately I would say that there are actually a lot of great inputs in the MOOC, despite that. So, but it's a big challenge.
So on the perspective of student teachers, how does the D-Lab way of working compare with your regular training experiences?
It's really good that you get this extra practice because you're teaching at the school during the project day. So that's really, really good. You get more experience.
It was a bit challenging because on project days, for example, when you go into the classroom, the children are very excited to do it because they know that for the whole day they won't be having math and physics and chemistry. They'll be doing something fun. But the drawback of that is that they get really riled up and excited, and it's really hard to keep control over the classroom as a student teacher who has such little experience teaching. But I loved it because compared to my first practice, that was just textbook stuff. I was in front of the class, I was doing something that I had more or less control over. Now I feel like, okay, I've tried something else where I feel like I need to think outside the box, be creative, use my persuasive powers to get people to, do a task and then film it and then get into that creative mindset, which I don't think I get to experience a lot in a regular practice.
Yeah, you learn a lot that structure is really important. For example, when doing the Skype sessions, you just think that you can do a Skype session without any planning, but then your student, because they're not familiar in speaking English, they don't want to, speak in front of the camera. So that was a challenge as well. But you learn during the project days that you have to be really, really structured when you do a project like this that is creative and innovative, I would say.
Yeah, it's very much learning by doing.
So focusing on the school pupils, so the children, were there challenges or benefits, and how does it compare to their regular lessons?
I think that the pupils were really excited whenever we did the Skype conversations because it made it all real. It's one thing to say to someone, we're doing this project with Norway and England. You say that to sixth graders, like they don't really know what you're talking about. Like they can't see it, they can't feel it. But once they saw like, okay, there's children on the other side of this Skype conversation that are waving at us, and what are they working on? What's their project? What sort of musical instruments are they making out of recycled materials and stuff like that? So in that way, I think it sparked this interest to use English not only for school stuff, but wow, okay, I can use English to actually do something real in the real world with it. So that's the thing that I liked the most about it.
Yeah, also kind of what you're saying, but the very interactive aspect of this, and we thought that into our entire course last year, that all our teaching here in Denmark was dependent on what they did in Norway and England, and their teaching was dependent on us. And that interactive element worked really well with the students. They were really motivated by that compared to regular lessons where I've just taught in the same school in my placement. So there was a huge difference there in the interactive element.
Can you identify which aspects of the D-Lab project have been most useful for you?
The technical side of it, working in eTwinning, working in Google Docs, working with different, platforms. Even though, I'm the first one to complain that, okay, it's been all over the place, I feel like I've gained tremendous knowledge in working with these programs that I'll most likely have to work with again. And in the beginning, especially with eTwinning, I felt like a fish out of water. I didn't understand it. I didn't know how to, operate. But now I feel much more comfortable, and I'm actually the first one in my group who's like, okay, I'll update this in eTwinning. I'll add some photos. I'll add some. So I like that.
Yeah, I would say the intercultural aspect of it. With all of these connections I've made and new relations that have been really inspiring. So it's a lot of people from a lot of different layers in the system and from different countries looking at things differently. So through these relations, which have continued this year, even though I'm not part of the project, I would say that that's probably the thing I've used the most as a teacher, and also just the experiences of visiting different places with different people.
And is there anything you'd do differently? So if you had to redo the project, is there anything you'd change?
Well, there has been a lot of things that could have worked better, but I'm actually not sure if I would have changed that, because I think in the process of that, every participant has also learned a lot by it not working in the first place. So I'm actually not really sure. I think perhaps the change that have been made to this year, and now you must correct me if I'm wrong, from it being like the idea of developing a whole course rather than having specific theme days. I think that's been a good change, because it's made it more accessible and more understandable both for the participants and for the pupils.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think that there are a lot of challenges is also a good part of this kind of project.
Yeah.
Okay. And lastly, is there anything you'd like to add about the impact of the project and what you think about that.
Like, have you enjoyed it, or?
I really liked it because I look back on my own learning experience and going to school where I was constantly told that, okay, if you want to be good at math, then you have to, study hard, and there was no playful element to it. There was no creativity involved. And before even joining this project, thinking about STEAM, I couldn't help but wonder, okay, what would my life be like if this was taught to me in this way, where we could add like art into it, where I could use stuff that I'm good at. So I really, really like the idea that as a learner, you can, there must be something that you can bring to the table to make it work as part of a team. So.
Yeah, the way we work have inspired me a lot about what to do, like teach more in projects maybe later. I think would be a good idea to bring along to your teaching. The way that we work with innovation, for example, and creativity is really important.
Yeah, you basically said it, but also I've said it before, this network that I have gotten from this, and also the fact that even though I'm not part of the project this year, I followed along when you were in Bruges, and I followed along this week, and I'm pretty sure that I'll still follow along next year. I think that's also a testament to that it actually being a good thing and something that I've enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Not just for its enjoyment, but also because it's given me something.
Okay, lovely, thank you.